The world told one simple story about the past. Ancient people were weak. Ancient people were slow. Ancient people knew very little. They lived with stone, dust, fear, and darkness. They built small things. They understood small things. And over time, humans slowly became smarter. That is the story most people hear. But some discoveries do not fit that story at all. Some ancient objects look too perfect. Some ancient buildings look too advanced. Some ancient designs seem impossible for their time. And some discoveries raise a question that no one can answer easily. What if the ancient world was not as simple as people think? What if the past was hiding something bigger? Far below deserts, deep inside forgotten ruins, and under layers of stone and time, strange things were found. These were not normal tools. These were not simple decorations. These were not random pieces of history. Some of them looked like they belonged in a modern lab. Some looked like they were made with machines. Some carried knowledge that should not have existed in that age. And that is where the real mystery begins. Historians often say ancient people did the best they could with the tools they had. That sounds reasonable. It sounds safe. But safety does not explain everything, because some ancient discoveries do not just look impressive, they look impossible. Their cuts are too sharp, their shapes are too exact, their systems are too complex, their knowledge is too deep. Even now, with modern tools, modern science, and modern machines, some of these discoveries still leave experts confused. They study them, they test them, they argue about them, yet the same question always returns. How was this possible? And maybe the more dangerous question is this: who were these people really? Because if ancient humans created things far beyond what history says they could do, then something is wrong with the story of human progress. Maybe the timeline is incomplete. Maybe important knowledge was lost. Or maybe the ancient world reached a level that modern people still do not fully understand. That thought makes this mystery much bigger. This is no longer just about old stones or broken artifacts. This is about humanity. For a long time, people believed civilization moved in one direction only: slow progress, small steps, simple beginnings. But what if that is not true? What if ancient humans rose high, discovered great things, and then lost everything? What if the past was not a dark age of ignorance, but the shadow of something brilliant? That idea changes everything. It means the people of the ancient world may not have been primitive at all. They may have been skilled. They may have been bold. They may have understood science, design, and the natural world in ways that history forgot. And if that is true, then every strange ruin becomes more than a ruin. Every artifact becomes a clue. Every impossible discovery becomes a warning from the past. Because history does not always disappear completely. Sometimes it leaves signs. A carved object with impossible detail. A structure built with shocking precision. A device that looks more like a machine than a relic. A pattern that should not exist. A map that knew too much. A design that feels ahead of its age. These are not just mysteries. These are pieces of a hidden story. A story buried under the official version of history. A story that says ancient humans may have known far more than anyone wanted to believe. That is why these discoveries continue to disturb people. Not because they are old, but because they feel wrong in the timeline. They sit in the past like they came from another age. They force a new possibility into the mind. Maybe human history is not a straight line. Maybe it is broken. Maybe entire chapters are missing. And maybe those missing chapters contain some of the greatest achievements humanity ever made. This is where the fear begins. Because if ancient world once held advanced knowledge, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. What happened to it? Was it destroyed by war? Was it buried by nature? Was it forgotten over time? Or was it hidden because later generations could not understand it? No one knows for sure, but the silence around these discoveries only makes them more powerful. They should not exist, and yet they do. In this story, 6 ancient discoveries will come into view. Each one will open the door a little wider. Each one will challenge the idea that ancient people were limited and simple. Each one will suggest that the human mind may have reached incredible heights long before modern history began to record them. Some discoveries will seem strange, some will seem shocking, and one may change the way the audience sees the past forever. Because the final mystery is not just about what ancient people built, it's about what humanity once was. And if even one of these discoveries is truly as advanced as it appears, then the ancient world was not behind us. In some ways, it may have been ahead of us. History says ancient builders used simple tools: bronze chisels, stone hammers, ropes, and sand. That's the official story. But some ruins don't agree with that story. They show something else. They show precision. Not careful precision, not good precision, perfect precision. In certain ancient sites, massive stone blocks sit together like puzzle pieces. The edges are straight, the corners are sharp, the gaps between them are so small that a thin blade cannot pass through. Some stones weigh many tons, yet they fit together without mortar, without glue, without modern machines. They lock into place as if they were cut by invisible hands. Experts look at these stones and feel uneasy. They know what tools existed in that time. They know what those tools could do, and they know those tools should not be able to make such clean cuts. Even today, cutting heavy stone with perfect angles is hard. It takes time, it takes power, it takes careful planning. So the question returns again: how was this done? Some say patience, some say years of practice, some say lost techniques passed down through generations. But patience does not explain mathematical accuracy. Practice does not explain flawless geometry, and lost techniques do not explain why the knowledge vanished completely. If ancient builders truly mastered this skill, why did no one write it down? Why did no one teach it? Why did it disappear as if it never existed? This is where the story shifts. This is not just about stone. This is about human hands and human minds. It suggests that ancient people were not just surviving, they were solving problems. They were thinking in ways that modern engineers still respect. They understood weight, balance, pressure, and space. They did not guess, they calculated. They did not hope, they planned. And they built with a confidence that feels strange for a time history calls primitive. The more scientists study these cuts, the more the mystery grows. Some stones show signs of drilling, but the drill marks are too even, too deep, too consistent. Some surfaces look polished, but the polish is too smooth, too uniform. It does not look like work done by hand. It looks like work done by design. And design means knowledge. Knowledge means understanding. Understanding means intelligence. If ancient humans could shape stone with such control, what else could they shape? What else could they measure? What else could they build? The official timeline says progress was slow. It says civilization climbed step by step. But these stones do not climb. They stand. They stand as if someone already knew the answer, as if someone already solved the problem, as if someone already reached a level that history forgot. Precision is not an accident. Precision is a choice. And every perfect cut in these ancient ruins is a quiet message from the past. It says the builders were here. It says they knew how to measure. It says the human mind was never as limited as the timeline suggests. But precision is only the beginning, because some ancient discoveries do not just sit in place. Some ancient discoveries move. Some ancient discoveries turn. Some ancient discoveries look less like ruins and more like machines. And that is where the story becomes even stronger. History says ancient people built tools for survival: hammers for breaking, blades for cutting, wheels for moving, simple objects for simple needs. But not every ancient object fits that description. Some discoveries look different. They do not look like tools. They look like systems. They do not look like carvings. They look like machines. Deep inside museum collections, buried in excavation reports, and hidden in old archives, certain artifacts stand out. They have moving parts. They have interlocking pieces. They have patterns that repeat with mathematical rhythm. When experts first found them, they assumed they were decorations, or religious symbols, or broken fragments. But closer inspection changed everything. These were not meant to sit still. They were meant to work. The most shocking part is not that they exist. The shocking part is how they were built. Ancient engineers did not have modern steel. They did not have precision lathes. They did not have computer models or digital measurements. Yet they created objects that turn, shift, align, and calculate. Some pieces fit together so tightly that dust cannot enter. Some mechanisms still move after thousands of years. Some designs follow principles of physics that modern science only confirmed centuries later. How did they know? How did they plan it? How did they test it without modern labs? The answers are missing. The records are gone. The builders left no manuals. They left no blueprints. They only left the objects themselves. And those objects speak a quiet but powerful language. They say that ancient minds understood motion. They understood force. They understood how parts could work together to create function. This was not luck. This was engineering. When historians try to explain these finds, they often use safe words: ritual device, ceremonial object, symbolic model. But symbols do not need moving parts. Rituals do not require exact gear ratios, and ceremonies do not depend on mechanical precision. The truth is harder to accept. Ancient humans built machines. They may not have called them machines. They may have used different words, different purposes, different beliefs, but the structure remains the same: input, motion, output, design, function, result. This changes how the past is viewed. It suggests that technology did not begin in the modern era. It suggests that technology is older than recorded history. It suggests that human beings have always been builders, always been problem solvers, always been curious about how things work. And when they found a way to make something move, they did not stop. They improved it, they refined it, they made it last. But here lies the real mystery. If ancient people could build machines, where are the rest of them? Machines wear out, machines break, machines need maintenance. So why do only a few survive? Were they destroyed? Were they buried? Were they taken apart for materials? Or were they simply lost when the knowledge behind them disappeared? Knowledge does not vanish overnight. It fades slowly. It forgets. It gets replaced. It gets rewritten. And when the builders are gone, the machines become puzzles. Experts still study these artifacts with careful hands and careful eyes. They scan them, they model them, they try to rebuild them in modern workshops, and every time they do, they find the same thing. The ancient design works. It works smoothly. It works efficiently. It works without error. That fact alone is enough to shake the official story of human progress, because progress does not jump backward. Knowledge does not disappear completely, yet here it is, a machine from an age that should not have known how to make it. This discovery does not just raise questions about tools, it raises questions about minds. It suggests that ancient humans were not waiting for the future to invent technology. They were already creating it. They were already testing it. They were already using it. And if one machine survives, how many were lost? How many were buried? How many were forgotten by time? The past is not silent. It speaks through metal, stone, and motion. And what it says is clear. Humanity was never as simple as history claims. The builders were real. The knowledge was real. The machines were real. And the only thing missing is the full story. But precision and machines are only two pieces of a larger puzzle, because some ancient discoveries do not just move. Some ancient discoveries remember. Some ancient discoveries record knowledge that should not have existed, and that is where the mystery becomes even deeper. History often treats ancient writing as simple memory: kings, wars, taxes, prayers, a record of daily life in old beliefs. That is what most people expect to find on stone tablets, cave walls, or faded scrolls. But some writings do not feel simple at all. Some carry knowledge that seems too early, too exact, and too advanced for the age that produced them. At first, these records look ordinary: lines carved into stone, symbols pressed into clay, maps drawn by careful hands, diagrams hidden inside temple walls. But when scholars begin to read them closely, a strange pattern appears. These were not only stories, they were observations, measurements, calculations, descriptions of the world that should have taken far more time and far more science to discover. Some ancient texts describe the stars with shocking accuracy. They track the movement of planets. They predict seasonal changes. They understand cycles in the sky that require generations of patient study. This alone is impressive, but it becomes far stranger when those same texts show knowledge that seems almost modern. Patterns in nature, advanced medicine, geometry used with confidence, maps that suggest a level of geographic awareness far beyond what historians believed possible. The official timeline says that knowledge came much later. It says people first struggled, then learned, then slowly improved. But these writings challenge that idea. They suggest that some ancient minds were already looking at the world with sharp logic and careful method. They were not simply guessing. They were testing, comparing, and recording. They may not have used modern words, but they were asking modern questions. How does the sky move? How does the body heal? How is distance measured? How does time repeat? These are not simple questions. They belong to curious minds, scientific minds, minds that refuse easy answers. And that is what makes these records so disturbing. They reveal that ancient humans were not only builders of stone and metal, they were builders of knowledge. There is something deeply powerful about written knowledge. A machine can break, a building can fall, but a written idea can survive. It can cross centuries. It can wait in silence until someone reads it again. And when ancient writings reveal information that feels ahead of their age, they become more than historical records. They become messengers from minds that were thinking far beyond what history expected from them. Some scholars try to explain this away. They say the knowledge was symbolic, not practical. They say the maps were guessed, the diagrams were decorative, the medical ideas were myths. But that answer becomes harder to hold when the details keep proving correct. The stars align as the text says they will. The geometric ratios match reality. Certain remedies work. Certain maps show coastlines or regions with a precision that should not have been possible without direct observation. That is when the safe explanation begins to fail. Because coincidence has limits. A lucky guess can happen once, maybe twice, but not again and again across different places and different civilizations. At some point, the truth becomes too clear to ignore. Ancient humans knew more than they were supposed to know. This changes everything. It means the past was not only advanced in building and design, it was advanced in thought. It means the ancient world was full of observers, planners, and record keepers who were watching nature closely and learning from it. It means humanity was not suddenly intelligent in recent history. Intelligence was already there. Curiosity was already there. The ability to understand complex systems was already there. And yet, most of this knowledge was lost. That is the part that feels almost tragic. Imagine generations of human effort, written carefully into stone and clay, only to be forgotten. Imagine wisdom surviving war, fire, and weather, only to be misunderstood by later ages. Imagine truths recorded thousands of years ago, waiting for modern readers to finally realize how advanced they really were.
These writings force one question into the mind. If ancient humans could understand so much, what else did they know that never survived? What discoveries disappeared before anyone could copy them? What observations were erased when cities fell, libraries burned, and empires turned to dust? The written word gives the past a voice, and that voice is clear. It says humanity was always searching, always learning, always reaching further than expected. The old world was not asleep, it was thinking. But if ancient records could hold advanced knowledge, then perhaps the ancient world held even more than ideas. Perhaps it held power, not political power, not military power, something deeper, a practical understanding of energy, sound, structure, and the hidden forces of nature.
For a long time, the story of human history felt stable. It had order, it had stages. First came survival, then farming, then cities, then science, then advanced civilization. Step by step, century by century, the human race moved forward. That is the timeline most people accept. It feels clean, it feels logical. But one discovery has the power to break that order completely. Because sometimes something is found that should not exist at all, not because it is strange, not because it is beautiful, but because it appears in the wrong time. That is what makes certain ancient discoveries so dangerous to the official story. They do not simply raise questions, they create conflict. A tool appears too early. A structure stands far older than expected. A sign of advanced planning shows up in a period when humans were supposed to be simple and scattered. These discoveries do not fit into the accepted line of progress. They sit outside it, like evidence from another version of history. And when that happens, experts face a difficult choice. They can change the timeline, or they can force the discovery to fit the old story. Most choose the second option. That does not always come from dishonesty. Sometimes it comes from caution. Sometimes it comes from fear of being wrong. Sometimes it comes from the simple fact that rewriting history is not easy. It changes books, theories, careers, and beliefs. But caution has a cost. When too much evidence is pushed aside, the truth starts to disappear behind comfort. This is where the mystery becomes more than scientific. It becomes human. Why do people resist the idea that ancient humanity may have been more advanced than expected? Maybe because it changes how modern civilization sees itself. If ancient humans reached high levels of knowledge long before the modern world, then progress is not a straight line. It is fragile. It can rise. It can collapse. It can be forgotten. That is a frightening thought. It means the present is not guaranteed to be the highest point in history. It means people in the distant past may have solved problems that later ages had to solve again. And that possibility is exactly what this discovery suggests. At certain sites, the age of the remains does not match the level of skill. The material is too old, the planning is too advanced, the engineering is too confident. This creates a deep problem for the official timeline. If the dating is correct, then humans were building with surprising intelligence much earlier than once believed. If the dating is wrong, then many modern methods must also be questioned. Either way, the old story begins to crack. This is what makes such discoveries so powerful. They do not ask for a small correction, they demand a major one. They force historians, archaeologists, and researchers to look again at everything they assumed about early civilization. They raise one simple question that refuses to go away. What if humanity began rising much earlier than recorded history admits? That question changes everything. It changes how ancient tools are judged. It changes how ruins are interpreted. It changes how written records are valued. It changes how intelligence itself is understood. The image of ancient people as helpless beginners starts to fade. In its place appears a different image, a bold one, a dangerous one, humanity as a species that may have reached brilliance more than once, humanity as a species that may have built, learned, and lost entire ages of achievement, humanity not as a simple line, but as a cycle of memory and forgetting. This is where the HYF spirit becomes strongest, because the discovery does not weaken humanity, it elevates humanity. It suggests that the human mind has always carried enormous power. Even in deep antiquity, humans may have observed, planned, calculated, and created at levels later generations did not expect. The greatness was always there. The courage was always there. The intelligence was always there. What changed was not human potential. What changed was what history remembered. And memory is not perfect. Storms erase cities. War destroys libraries. Floods bury foundations. Time turns certainty into dust. The world forgets easily, but sometimes not completely. Sometimes one object survives, one wall remains, one buried site is uncovered, and with it comes a message from the past. The old story was too small. This discovery is not only evidence of lost progress, it is evidence of lost respect for the ancient human mind. It reminds the modern world that intelligence did not suddenly appear in recent centuries. It has been with humanity from the beginning, waiting, building, testing, reaching. What modern civilization calls impossible may simply be something ancient civilization once understood. That idea is hard to escape once it enters the mind. Because if history is wrong here, where else is it wrong? What else was dismissed too quickly? What else lies buried beneath the safe version of the past? The answers may be hidden, but the pattern is now clear. Precision, machines, written knowledge, purposeful structures, and now evidence that the timeline itself may be incomplete. Piece by piece, the ancient world stops looking primitive and starts looking unfamiliar, almost as if it belonged to a forgotten branch of human greatness. Yet one mystery remains, because even if the timeline is broken, one final question still waits in the dark. What was all this knowledge pointing toward? What bigger truth connects all of these discoveries? And when the final discovery is revealed, that question may finally have an answer. By now, the pattern is impossible to ignore. The ancient world showed precision that should not exist. It left behind machines hidden inside history. It wrote knowledge before its time. It built places that seemed designed to do more than stand. And it revealed discoveries that challenged the official timeline itself. Each mystery alone is powerful, but together they point towards something much bigger. They suggest that these are not separate accidents, they are fragments of one lost truth. For centuries, people looked at the past and saw weakness. They imagined humanity crawling slowly out of darkness, learning little by little, century by century. But the deeper one looks into these ancient discoveries, the harder that story becomes to believe. The evidence does not show a species that was simply beginning. It shows a species that may have already known far more than expected. That is what the final discovery reveals. It is not just another object, not just another ruin, not just another strange clue. It is a connection between intelligence, design, memory, and loss. The final discovery may be different in shape or place from the others, but it carries the same message. Ancient humans were not passive people waiting for the modern world to arrive. They were thinkers, builders, observers, innovators. They studied nature, they measured the sky, they shaped stone with impossible care. They created systems that still confuse experts, and then, somehow, much of that knowledge disappeared. This is the bigger truth hidden behind all 6 discoveries. Humanity may not have risen only once. That idea is both thrilling and terrifying.
It means civilization may have reached great heights, then collapsed. It means knowledge may have been discovered, then forgotten. It means the past may contain not one beginning, but many beginnings. In that kind of history, ruins are no longer just ruins. They are warnings. They are messages from earlier peaks of human achievement. They show what people were capable of before disaster, war, climate, or time erased their world. What remains is only enough to disturb the present, to remind modern humanity that greatness is not new. Greatness is ancient. This gives the story a strong human meaning. The real mystery is not whether ancient people were advanced. The real mystery is why later generations forgot how advanced they may have been. Somewhere between the builders and the modern world, a break happened. Skills were lost, systems vanished, records were destroyed. Whole chapters of human ability may have fallen into silence. And yet, silence is not the same as absence. The clues are still here, in the cut of a stone, in the turn of a mechanism, in the lines of a map, in the echo of a chamber, in the age of a buried site, in the pattern that links them all. The final discovery does not solve every mystery. In some ways, it makes the mystery even deeper. Because once the audience accepts that ancient humanity may have been far more capable than history admits, a flood of new questions begins. What else did they build? What sciences did they understand? What technologies were lost before they could spread?